The alarm started at 0300 hours, and Commander Thelvas knew immediately that something was wrong. In 30 years of service at the Deep Space Monitoring Station, he had never heard that particular sound. It was the long-range scanner, detecting something that should not be there. He rushed to the command center, his 4 legs carrying him faster than usual. The other Velkhari officers were already gathered around the main display, their scaled faces showing confusion and concern. Young Velthar, barely 2 years out of the academy, was frantically typing commands into his console. "Commander, you need to see this," Velthar said, his voice shaking slightly. "The sensors picked up a vessel entering our territory, but the readings make no sense." Thelvas leaned over the display. The energy signature was unlike anything in their database. The ship's composition showed metals that no civilized species had used in thousands of years. Iron, titanium, basic carbon composites. It was like finding someone flying a ship made of stone. "Run the identification protocols again," Thelvas ordered. "The equipment must be malfunctioning." Velthar nodded and began the scan sequence. The other officers watched in silence. The Velkhari Empire controlled this entire sector of space. 200 star systems answered to their authority. Nothing entered their territory without permission. Nothing. The scan completed. The results were identical. "Commander, it is not a malfunction," Velthar reported. "The vessel is real. It is made of primitive materials, but it is moving at speeds that should be impossible for such construction. The hull should have torn apart at those velocities." Thelvas felt a chill run down his spine. He had seen many strange things in his career, but this was different. This was wrong. A primitive ship that moved like an advanced warship. It made no sense. "Wake Admiral Korvex," he said quietly. "He needs to see this immediately." 20 minutes later, Fleet Admiral Korvex stood in the command center, his imposing figure casting shadows across the displays. He was old, even by Velkhari standards, but his eyes were sharp and his mind sharper. He studied the readings in silence for several minutes. "How long until it reaches the inner systems?" he asked finally. "At current speed, approximately 40 hours, Thelvas replied. Korvex nodded slowly. "Assemble Battle Group 7. We will intercept this vessel and determine its purpose. If it is hostile, we will destroy it. If it is simply lost, we will guide it away from our space." "Shall I notify the High Council?" Thelvas asked. "Not yet," Korvex said. "This is likely nothing more than a derelict ship or a foolish smuggler trying to avoid patrol routes. No need to disturb the Council for such trivial matters." As the officers began preparations, a young communications officer named Suri raised her hand hesitantly. "Admiral, if I may." Korvex gestured for her to speak. "I have heard stories from the frontier traders," Suri said carefully. "They speak of a new species. They call them humans. The traders say these humans come from a system far from here. They say the humans have only recently achieved space travel." The command center fell silent. Then someone laughed. Soon several officers were chuckling. The idea was absurd. A new spacefaring species would be decades, perhaps centuries, away from crossing the distances between stars. They would certainly not be cruising through Velkhari space in a ship made of primitive metals. "Humans," Korvex repeated, his mandibles clicking in amusement. "I have heard such tales as well. Supposedly they come from a world they call Earth, a backwater planet with nothing of value. If these humans truly exist, they are barely capable of reaching their own moon, let alone our territory." "But Admiral," Suri persisted, "what if the readings are correct? What if this is a human ship?" Korvex's amusement faded. He looked at the young officer with something almost like pity. "Then they have made a terrible mistake entering our space. Battle Group 7 includes 12 warships. If this vessel is indeed crewed by primitives, they will quickly learn the price of trespassing in the Velkhari Empire." The officers returned to their duties. Battle Group 7 began assembling at the rally point, 3 light years away. The flagship Eternal Dominance led the formation, with 11 escort vessels surrounding it. Captain Hana commanded the flagship, a veteran officer known for her tactical brilliance. In the command center, Thelvas watched the mysterious vessel continue its approach. It maintained a steady course, not deviating even slightly. It did not respond to automated hails. It simply moved forward, like it owned the space it traveled through. "Velthar," Thelvas said quietly, "pull up everything we have on these humans. I want to know if there is any truth to the stories." Velthar worked his console for several minutes. "There is very little data, Commander. A few reports from frontier scouts, some intercepted communications. Most of it is unconfirmed. Tell me what we do have. The humans emerged from their home system approximately 50 years ago. They have established a small number of colonies. Their technology appears to be developing rapidly. The scouts report that human vessels are heavily armed for their size, but the data is limited and possibly unreliable. Thelva studied the approaching ship, heavily armed for their size. The words echoed in his mind. What is the classification of this vessel? Velthar checked the scanner data. Based on size and energy output, it appears to be a scout-class ship. Very small. Minimal crew capacity. If it is indeed human, it is likely operating alone, far from any support. A single scout ship. Thelvas felt himself relax slightly. Even if the humans were more advanced than the story suggested, one small vessel could not threaten an entire battle group. Perhaps Corvex was right. Perhaps this would be a simple matter. But something still bothered him. The ship's trajectory was too direct, too confident. It was not the path of a lost vessel or a cautious explorer. It was the path of something that had every right to be there. Velthar, calculate the ship's destination if it maintains current heading. The young officer worked quickly. His face went pale. Commander, if it maintains this course, it will pass within 2 light years of the capital world. The command center went quiet again. The capital, the heart of the Velkhari Empire, home to billions of citizens and the seat of the High Council. The mysterious ship was heading directly toward the most important system in their entire civilization. Thelvas reached for the communication panel. Admiral Corvex, we have a situation. In space, the human vessel continued forward. Its hull showed scars from previous battles. Patches covered holes that had been repaired in haste. Burns marked where weapons had struck but failed to penetrate. It looked like it had survived a dozen wars. Inside the ship, Captain Minho sat in his command chair watching the scanner displays. He could see the Velkhari battle group forming up ahead. 12 ships, not bad. Not great, but not bad. Sir, they are positioning to intercept us in approximately 6 hours, his navigator reported. Minho nodded. Maintain current course and speed. Do not deviate. Should we broadcast our intentions? Let them know we are peaceful? They can see we are not shooting at them, Minho said calmly. That should be enough. If they want to talk, they know how to use a comm system. The navigator looked uncertain but said nothing more. Minho had been doing this job for 15 years. First contact situations were always tense. The key was to appear confident but not aggressive, strong but not threatening. Of course, that was easier said than done when you were one ship facing 12. Minho allowed himself a small smile. The Velkhari had no idea what they were dealing with. They saw a small ship made of primitive metals and assumed it was weak. They counted their superior numbers and felt confident. They were about to learn an important lesson about humans. A lesson that every enemy Earth had ever faced eventually learned. Humans did not build ships for comfort. They built them to survive, and they built them to fight. Battle Group 7 dropped out of hyperspace in perfect formation. Captain Hana stood on the bridge of the Eternal Dominance, watching the main display with satisfaction. 12 warships arranged in a classic intercept pattern. It was textbook military procedure, and it looked impressive. Target acquired, her tactical officer reported. Range, 200,000 kilometers and closing. Hana studied the image on the screen. The mysterious vessel was smaller than she expected, maybe 200 meters long. Its hull was pitted and scarred. She could see repair patches, some newer than others. It looked like something that belonged in a scrapyard, not traveling through space. That ship has seen combat, she observed. Multiple engagements from the look of it. Should we raise shields, Captain? Her second officer asked. Hana considered. The ship ahead posed no obvious threat. It was alone. It was small. It was made of materials that should barely hold together at these speeds. Raising shields might be seen as an act of aggression. Not yet, she decided, but keep weapons ready. Let us first attempt communication. She nodded to the communications officer, who began broadcasting on all standard frequencies. The message was simple and direct. This was Velkhari space. The unknown vessel must identify itself immediately and state its purpose. Failure to comply would result in the use of force. For several seconds there was no response. Then the communications panel crackled to life. The voice that came through spoke Galactic Common, but the accent was thick and strange. The pronunciation was harsh, the vowels flat. "This is the human vessel Defiant song. We are just passing through. Do not do anything stupid." The bridge of the Eternal Dominance went silent. Every officer stared at the communications panel. Had the primitive ship just threatened them? Single small vessel addressing an entire battle group as if they were equals? Hana felt anger rising in her chest. The audacity was beyond belief. These humans, whoever they were, clearly did not understand the situation they were in. "Human vessel," she said, her voice cold and formal. "You have entered Velkari Empire territory without authorization. You will power down your engines and prepare to be boarded. If you resist, you will be destroyed." The response came quickly, in that same harsh accent. "Negative, Velkari ship. We are exercising our right to free passage through open space. This sector is not claimed territory under the Galactic Maritime Convention. We are not stopping. I repeat, do not do anything stupid." Hana's hands clenched into fists. The Galactic Maritime Convention was an old treaty, rarely enforced. The Velkari Empire controlled this space through strength, not legal documents. And this human, this creature from a backwater world, dared to quote regulations at her? "Tactical," she said quietly. "Fire a warning shot, 50 meters off their bow. Show them we are serious." The tactical officer entered the commands. A plasma bolt launched from the Eternal Dominance's forward batteries. It was a light shot, calculated precisely to miss but to demonstrate their capability. The bolt streaked through space, glowing bright blue. It should have passed 50 meters in front of the human ship. It should have served as a clear warning. It never got close. The human vessel moved. Not with conventional thrusters, not with a smooth acceleration curve. It simply exploded into motion, like something had hit it from behind. The acceleration was violent and impossible. Nothing with a biological crew could survive such movement. In exactly 1.3 seconds, the Defiant song repositioned itself behind the entire Velkari formation. "What just happened?" Hana demanded. "Captain, the human ship just pulled over 200 Gs of acceleration," the tactical officer said, his voice shaking. "That is impossible. Nothing organic can survive those forces. The crew should be dead. They should be pasted on the walls." Hana spun to face the main display. Sure enough, the human ship now sat comfortably behind their formation. It had moved faster than their targeting systems could track. Faster than should be possible. "How?" she whispered. Before anyone could answer, something launched from the human vessel. The sensors registered it immediately. It was not an energy weapon, not plasma, not a laser. It was a solid object, a piece of metal, a slug of iron and tungsten accelerated to incredible speed. "Incoming projectile," Tactical shouted. "Impact in 3 seconds, brace for..." The slug hit the Eternal Dominance at 15% the speed of light. It punched through the shields like they were not even there. The shields, designed to stop energy weapons and slow missiles, offered no resistance to a solid object moving at relativistic speeds. The slug tore through the hull, through 3 decks, through reinforced bulkheads, through crew quarters and equipment storage, through the outer hull on the opposite side. It created a hole exactly 30 centimeters wide and perfectly straight. Then it was gone, continuing on into empty space, barely slowed by its passage through the ship. The decompression was instant. 3 decks lost atmosphere in seconds. Emergency bulkheads slammed shut, but not before 23 crew members were pulled into the void. Alarms screamed throughout the ship. Damage reports flooded the bridge. Hana grabbed her command chair to steady herself. The ship had stopped shaking, but her mind was reeling. One shot, one single projectile. It had penetrated their defenses like they did not exist. "Shields are still at 98%, Tactical reported, his voice numb with shock. The projectile simply ignored them. "Our shields are designed for energy weapons. They cannot stop solid matter at those velocities." "Return fire," Hana ordered. "All weapons. Destroy that ship." "Captain," her second officer interrupted. "We have lost 23 crew." We have hull breaches on 3 decks. If we engage, if they fire again, I said return fire. But before the weapons could charge, the communications panel activated again. The same harsh voice, the same flat accent. But this time, there was something in the tone. Not quite anger, more like disappointment. You fired first, Velkari ship. We responded with 1 shot. 1. We could have targeted your engines. We could have targeted your bridge. We could have targeted your reactor. We chose a non-critical section. That was your warning. Stand down, or the next shot goes somewhere important. The voice paused, then continued, quieter. We told you not to do anything stupid. Hana looked at her tactical display. The human ship had not moved again. It simply sat there, behind their formation, waiting. 1 small vessel, 1 crew. Against 12 Velkari warships, and they were winning. Captain, her second officer said urgently, we need to withdraw. We are not equipped for this type of combat. Our shields are useless against kinetic weapons at those speeds. If they fire again, I know, Hana snapped. But she did know. She was a veteran officer. She understood when a battle was lost before it truly began. Pride demanded they fight. Wisdom demanded they survive. All ships, she said into the fleet channel. Withdraw, maximum speed, scatter pattern delta. The Velkari battle group broke formation and fled. 12 warships, the pride of the Empire, running from a single enemy vessel. It was humiliating. It was necessary. As the Eternal Dominance jumped to hyperspace, Hana took one last look at the human ship on her display. It had not pursued. It had not fired again. It simply sat there exactly where it had been. Then it turned and continued on its original course, as if nothing had happened. The voice came one final time over the communications channel. Velkari ships, this is Captain Minho of the Defiant Song. You attacked us without provocation. We defended ourselves with minimal force. We hope this teaches you something about making assumptions. Safe travels. The channel went dead. Hana slumped into her command chair. Around her, the bridge crew worked in shocked silence. They had just witnessed something that should not be possible. A primitive ship with primitive materials had destroyed the fundamental assumptions of Velkari military doctrine. Their shields were worthless. Their numbers meant nothing if the enemy could move that fast. Their weapons could not hit what they could not track. Get me Admiral Korvex, Hana said quietly. He needs to know what we just encountered. In the medical bay, doctors worked frantically to save the injured crew members. In engineering, teams assessed the damage and began repairs. On the bridge, officers filed reports and tried to understand what had happened. But in her mind, Hana kept replaying that moment. The moment the human ship moved. The impossible acceleration. The precision of the shot. The casual confidence in Captain Minho's voice. The Velkari Empire had ruled this sector for 10,000 years. They had conquered dozens of species. They had fought countless wars. They had never lost a battle, until today. And the worst part, the part that terrified Hana more than anything else, was the realization that had settled into her bones. The human ship had been holding back. That single shot, that warning, had been an act of mercy. If Captain Minho had wanted to destroy the Eternal Dominance, he could have done it. Easily. With 1 shot to the reactor or the bridge. Instead, he had chosen a section of the ship where casualties would be minimal. He had been trying to avoid killing them. Hana closed her eyes. Somewhere out there, in the vastness of space, was a species called humanity. They built ships from primitive materials. They survived accelerations that should kill them. They fought with weapons the Velkari had never imagined. The Velkari High Council chamber was a place of tradition and power. For 10,000 years, decisions made in this room had shaped the destiny of 200 star systems. Today, the chamber was filled with angry voices and frightened faces. Councillor Drevkor slammed his fist on the council table. This is an outrage. A single primitive vessel humiliated an entire battle group. We must respond with overwhelming force. We must show these humans that the Velkari Empire does not tolerate such insults. And how exactly do you propose we do that? Counselor Sherrix asked calmly. She was older than most of the council, and her voice carried the weight of experience. Our battle group attacked first. They defended themselves. Under galactic law, they were within their rights. Galactic law? Drevkor spat. We are the Velkari Empire. We do not bow to treaties written by weaker species. We make the law in our territory. Fleet Admiral Korvek stood at the center of the chamber, his military uniform crisp and formal, but his face showed something the council rarely saw from him. Doubt. Counselors, he said heavily, I have read Captain Hana's report 3 times. I have reviewed the sensor data. I have consulted with our best tactical analysts. The conclusion is unavoidable. We do not understand the enemy we face. Enemy? Sherrix questioned. They fired 1 shot. 1. They could have destroyed the Eternal Dominance completely. Instead, they targeted a section with minimal casualties. Does that sound like an enemy to you? It sounds like weakness, Drevkor declared. They hesitated. Next time we will not give them that chance. A young voice interrupted from the back of the chamber. Counselors, if I may speak. All eyes turned to Lieutenant Junho. He was a junior intelligence officer, barely qualified to be in the chamber at all. But he had been specifically requested by Counselor Sharix for this meeting. You may speak, Lieutenant, Sharix said. Unyo stepped forward carrying a data tablet. His hands shook slightly, but his voice was steady. I have been researching the humans for the past 3 weeks. What I have learned is disturbing. Disturbing? Drevkor scoffed. They are a primitive species from a backwater world. What could possibly be disturbing? Junyo activated his tablet, and holographic displays filled the air above the council table. Earth, that is their homeworld. It is what we would classify as a Class 12 death world. The chamber went quiet. Death worlds were rare. They were planets so hostile that complex life should not evolve there. Class 12 was the highest rating in the classification system. Earth has gravity 20% higher than the Velkari standard, Junho continued. The atmosphere contains oxygen at levels that would be toxic to most species. The temperature varies by over 100 degrees between seasons. The planet is covered in violent weather systems. Hurricanes, tornadoes, earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, tidal waves. He changed the display. Images appeared of Earth's wildlife. Massive creatures with teeth and claws. Tiny creatures whose bites delivered lethal poisons. Microscopic organisms that caused devastating diseases. Humans evolved on this world as persistence predators, Junho explained. They cannot run as fast as their prey. They cannot fly. They do not have natural weapons like claws or venomous bites. Instead, they chase their prey for hours, sometimes days, until the prey collapses from exhaustion. Then they kill it. Counselor Sharix leaned forward, studying the images. Persistence hunters. Like the sand stalkers of Velkara Prime. Similar but more extreme, Junho said. Humans can regulate their body temperature through sweating. They can run for hours without stopping. They can survive injuries that would kill most species. Their bones heal stronger after breaking. Their immune systems adapt to new diseases. They are built to survive. Fascinating biology, Drevkor said dismissively, but that does not explain their technology. Junho changed the display again. Their recorded history goes back approximately 5,000 years. In that time, they have fought over 10,000 wars. They have killed more of their own species than any external threat ever has. Their entire cultural development is shaped by conflict. He pulled up images of human entertainment, movies, books, games. This is their fiction. Their stories for children. Look at the themes. Survival, struggle, overcoming impossible odds. They tell their young that the world is dangerous and you must fight to survive. Primitive fear-mongering, Drevkor muttered. Perhaps, Junho said. Or perhaps it is a species that understands reality better than we do. Humans unified as a species only after they nearly destroyed themselves with nuclear weapons. They achieved atomic energy before they left their own planet. They walked on their moon before they had computers more powerful than our data tablets. He paused, letting that sink in. They developed their technology in a different order than we did. They focused on propulsion and weapons first. Comfort and safety came later, if they came at all. Strategist Sora, a civilian analyst known for her brilliant tactical mind, spoke up. Lieutenant, what can you tell us about their military vessels? Junho pulled up schematics of human ships. The council members leaned closer to study them. The designs were strange. Compact, efficient. There were no luxury quarters, no meditation gardens, no recreational facilities. Human warships are approximately 70% weapons systems, Junho explained. 20% engines and fuel, 10% crew survival. They do not build ships for comfort. They build them to fight. And to survive, Sora added, studying the designs. Look at the redundancy. Every critical system has 3 backups. The hull is layered, multiple compartments that can be sealed independently. These ships are designed to take damage and keep fighting. That cannot be standard for their entire fleet, Drevkor objected. No species would be so wasteful. It is not waste if it keeps the ship operational, Sora countered. It is planning. The humans assume their ships will be damaged in combat. They design accordingly. Junho displayed more data. The vessel we encountered, the Defiant Song, is classified in human naval terminology as a scout frigate. It is one of their smallest military vessels. The chamber fell silent again. One of their smallest. Counselor Sherrick spoke carefully. Lieutenant, do we know how many ships the humans possess? No, Counselor. Our intelligence is limited, but based on intercepted communications, we believe Earth has at least 3 separate fleets. The Defiant Song belongs to the Expeditionary Force. That appears to be their Exploration and First Contact Division. Exploration ships, Drevkor said. Not their main military. Correct, Junho confirmed. We have encountered their scouts, not their warships. Admiral Korvek sat down heavily. In his long career, he had never felt fear in combat. He felt it now. What else do we know about their military doctrine? Junho hesitated. This is the most disturbing part, Admiral. Humans do not have faster-than-light communication. When their ships travel, they are isolated, cut off from command. Each captain is given full authority to make decisions independently. That is insane, Drevkor said. How can they maintain military discipline? How can they coordinate strategies? They cannot, Sora answered, understanding dawning in her eyes. Each ship is autonomous. Each captain is trusted to make the right choice, including the choice to go to war. Captain Minho, Sharrock said quietly. When he chose not to destroy the Eternal Dominance, that was not following orders from Earth. That was his personal decision. Yes, Counselor, Junho confirmed. He could have killed everyone on that ship. Instead, he showed mercy, not because his government told him to, because he chose to. The implications settled over the Council like a heavy blanket. They had attacked a human ship. The human captain had the authority to respond with a lethal force. He had chosen not to. He had fired one shot, carefully aimed to minimize casualties as a warning. That was not the action of a primitive species. That was the action of a disciplined, confident military that understood the difference between winning a battle and preventing a war. There is more, Junho said quietly. He displayed intercepted human communications, personal messages between crew members, casual conversations. Humans have a saying. It appears frequently in their communications. Hope for the best, plan for the worst. Meaning? Korvex asked. Meaning they always assume things will go wrong. They prepare for disasters. Every human ship has protocols for scenarios we would never imagine. Total crew loss. Artificial intelligence malfunction. Alien parasites. Reality-bending anomalies. They plan for everything. Paranoid, Drevkor said. Prepared, Sora corrected. There is a difference. Paranoia is irrational fear. The humans have rational concern based on their history. Their world tried to kill them for millions of years. They learned to be ready for anything. Counselor Sharrock stood. I have heard enough. It is clear that we cannot approach the humans as we would a primitive species. They are dangerous, yes, but they are also disciplined and apparently willing to negotiate. I propose we send a diplomatic envoy. Absolutely not, Drevkor shouted. That would show weakness. We must respond with force. Overwhelming force. Show them that attacking the Volcari Empire has consequences. We attacked them first, Sharrock reminded him coldly. Or have you forgotten that detail? A warning shot, which they evaded and countered with superior tactics and weapons. The Third Armada assembled in the void like a gathering storm. 150 warships, their hulls gleaming under the light of distant stars. At the center of the formation was the Infinite Glory, a dreadnought so massive it had its own gravity field. Fleet Admiral Korvek stood on its bridge, watching the final ships take their positions. All vessels reporting ready, Admiral. his second officer announced. Korvax nodded with satisfaction. This was power. This was the might of the Velkari Empire made visible. No primitive species, no matter how clever, could stand against such a force. Intelligence reports the human scout vessel has docked at Mining Station 47, Tactical Officer Hyun reported. The station is in neutral space, just outside our official borders. Scans showed the Defiant Song and several civilian mining vessels. No other military presence detected. Perfect, Korvax said. We will jump to the station, surround it, and demand the humans surrender. When they refuse, we will destroy both the ship and the station. Let it serve as a warning to anyone who challenges Velkari authority. A few officers shifted uncomfortably. Destroying a civilian station was harsh, even by military standards. But no one spoke up. The Admiral had his orders from the High Council. The humans would pay for their insult. All ships prepare for jump, Korvax commanded. We will emerge in attack formation Delta. Weapons hot. Shields at maximum. If the humans try their tricks again, we will be ready. The Armada jumped. They emerged from hyperspace in a perfect sphere around Mining Station 47. The station was small, barely capable of supporting a few hundred workers. It hung in space like a piece of industrial debris, all function and no beauty. Station is hailing us, communications reported. Ignore them, Korvax ordered. Scan for the human vessel. Contact confirmed, Hyun said. The Defiant Song is docked at Port 7. Engines are cold. No active weapons. They appear to be conducting repairs. Korvax smiled. They had caught the humans unprepared. Broadcast on all frequencies. Inform the human vessel that they have 5 minutes to surrender, or we will open fire. The message was sent. For a moment, there was only silence. Then a new voice came over the communications channel. Female. The same harsh accent as Captain Minho, but different. Colder. This is Captain Yoonji of the UNS Retribution. You have 5 minutes to withdraw before we consider you hostile. The bridge of the infinite glory went quiet. Officers looked at each other in confusion. Hyun checked his sensors again, frantically searching. Admiral, I am detecting no other vessels. Only the Defiant Song and the civilian miners. There is no ship called Retribution on our scanners. Korvax laughed. It was a bluff. An obvious bluff. Captain Yoonji, this is Fleet Admiral Korvax of the Velkari Empire. You are surrounded by 150 warships. Your scout vessel is damaged and under repair. You have no reinforcements within 20 light years. Surrender now or be destroyed. The response was immediate. You were warned, Admiral. You have 4 minutes. This is absurd, Korvax said. They are alone. They must be alone. We would detect any other ships. Unless they have stealth technology, Hyun said quietly. Impossible. No species has perfected stealth technology that can defeat our sensors. The energy requirements alone would— 3 minutes, Admiral, the human voice interrupted. Korvax's amusement faded. There was something in that voice. Not fear, not desperation, just cold certainty. It was the voice of someone who held all the cards and was simply waiting for the other player to realize it. All ships, go to full alert, Korvax ordered. Maximum sensor sweep. Find me that ship. The Armada's sensors went to full power, flooding the area with every detection method known to Velkari science. Electromagnetic, gravitational, thermal, quantum. If there was a ship out there, they would find it. 2 minutes. The seconds ticked by. The sensors showed nothing. Just the station, the Defiant Song, and the civilian vessels. No hidden ship. No retribution. It is a bluff, Korvax said, more to convince himself than his crew. They are trying to frighten us. Hold formation. Prepare to fire on my command. 1 minute. Hyun's hands moved across his console, checking and rechecking. The other officers watched their displays with growing nervousness. Something felt wrong. The human captain sounded too confident. Too certain. 30 seconds. Admiral, Hyun said urgently. I recommend we hold position, Korvax snapped. 15 seconds. The bridge was silent except for the countdown. Every officer watched their stations. Every weapon system was armed. Every shield was at maximum power. 10, 9, 8. Korvax gripped his command chair. Let the humans try something. They would learn that numbers mattered. Power mattered. The Velkari Empire would not be intimidated. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Nothing happened. For a heartbeat, there was only silence. Then Hyun screamed. Contacts! Multiple contacts! They are decloaking. 18 vessels all around us. The main display erupted with new icons. Ships appeared out of nowhere, their stealth systems dropping simultaneously. They had been there the entire time, invisible, waiting. These were not scout vessels. The smallest was twice the size of the Defiant Song. The largest, the Retribution, was nearly as massive as the Infinite Glory. They bore names painted in human script: Retribution, Vengeance, Indomitable, Thunder, Lightning, Fury. They formed a sphere outside the Valkyrie formation. The hunters had become the hunted. How? Korvax whispered. How did they hide from our sensors? Unknown, Admiral, Hyun reported, his voice shaking. The technology is beyond our understanding. They must have been running completely cold. No emissions, no heat signature, nothing. Captain Yunji's voice returned. You were warned, Admiral. You chose not to listen. Now we will give you one final chance. Stand down, power down your weapons, or we will consider this an act of war. Korvax stared at the display. 150 Valkyrie warships, 18 human vessels. The numbers still favored the Empire. Surely they could win. Surely their superior numbers would prevail. All ships, he said slowly. Target the human vessels. Prepare to fire on my mark. Admiral, please reconsider, Hyun begged. We do not know what weapons they possess. If they are anything like the Defiant Song, we are the Valkyrie Empire. Korvax roared. We do not run from inferior species. All ships fire at will. 150 warships opened fire simultaneously. Plasma bolts, missiles, energy beams. The void lit up with weapons fire. It was the largest coordinated attack the Valkyrie military had executed in decades. The human ships moved. They did not dodge gracefully. They did not weave through the incoming fire. They simply accelerated through it, their hulls taking hits that should have destroyed them. Shields flared and failed. Hull plating melted under plasma strikes. Missiles detonated against their armor, and they kept coming. Impossible, someone shouted. Nothing should survive that much damage. But the humans were surviving. Their ships were built like their scout vessels, over-engineered, redundant systems, layered armor. They took damage and kept fighting. Then they returned fire. The railgun spoke first. Solid slugs, accelerated to incredible speeds, punched through Valkyrie shields like tissue paper. Ships exploded as the projectiles tore through reactors. Others went dark as the slugs destroyed their power systems. 3 vessels simply broke apart, their structures unable to handle the kinetic impact. Then came the missiles. They were not like Valkyrie missiles. These were larger, heavier. When they detonated, they released energies that registered off the scale. Nuclear weapons. Primitive by galactic standards, but devastating in their raw power. Ships caught in the blast simply vaporized. Evasive maneuvers, Korvax ordered. All ships scatter and reform. But the human vessels were already moving to intercept. They moved with coordination that seemed impossible without faster-than-light communication. Each ship knew exactly where to go, exactly what to target. They worked together like fingers on a hand. Captain Yunji's voice cut through the chaos. Valkyrie fleet, this is your final warning. Cease fire immediately, or we will consider you hostile combatants. We are already firing at you, Korvax shouted back. Yes, and we are showing restraint. Notice that we are targeting your weapons and engines, not your crew sections, not your life support. We are trying not to kill you. Stop this now before we change our minds. Yun pulled up casualty reports. The numbers were devastating. 42 ships damaged or destroyed, thousands of crew members dead or injured, and the humans were right. Most of the damage was to military systems. The human weapons were precise, controlled. They were choosing where to hit. They could have aimed for crew quarters, for life support, for command centers. Instead, they were disabling ships while minimizing casualties. Even while defending themselves, they were trying not to kill. The Infinite Glory shuddered as a railgun slug tore through its forward shields. Warning klaxons blared across the bridge. Damage reports flooded in. The main weapons array was offline. 2 engine sections were venting plasma. Life support was down to backup systems. Admiral, Hyun said quietly, we are losing. If we continue, they will destroy the entire armada. Korvax looked at the display, at the burning wrecks of Valkyrie ships, at the human vessels damaged but still fighting, at the reality he did not want to accept. They had lost. The Valkyrie High Council chamber had never been so quiet. The reports lay on the table before them, and no one wanted to be the first to speak. 42 ships destroyed or crippled, over 3,000 casualties. The Third Armada, once the pride of the Empire, had limped home in disgrace. Councillor Drevkor sat with his head in his hands. He had demanded this action. He had insisted on overwhelming force. Now the blood of thousands was on his conscience. Councillor Sherrick spoke first, her voice calm but carrying an edge of anger. We were warned. Lieutenant Junho provided detailed intelligence. The humans showed mercy in their first encounter. We chose to escalate. We chose to attack, and now we face the consequences of our pride. They humiliated us, Drevkor said quietly. The entire galaxy will hear of this. The Velkari Empire defeated by a handful of human ships. 18 ships, Sharks corrected, against 150 of ours, and they still tried to minimize casualties. Even while we were shooting at them, they aimed for weapons and engines instead of crew quarters. That speaks to their discipline and their values. Fleet Admiral Corvex stood at attention, his uniform bearing scorch marks from the battle. Counselors, I take full responsibility for the defeat. I underestimated the enemy. I assumed our numbers would be sufficient. I was wrong. We were all wrong, Sharrick said, except for those who tried to warn us. Lieutenant Junho stepped forward. Junho walked to the center of the chamber, his young face showing exhaustion. He had not slept in 3 days, frantically compiling reports and analyzing the battle data. Lieutenant, what have you learned from the engagement? Sharrick asked. Junho activated a holographic display. The human vessels use technology we do not fully understand. Their stealth systems operate on principles that bypass our detection methods. Their kinetic weapons are devastatingly effective against our energy-based defenses. Their nuclear warheads, while primitive in design, are far more powerful than we anticipated. He paused, then continued. But the most important discovery is this. The ships we fought were not Earth's main military fleet. They were the expeditionary force, scout and escort vessels assigned to protect colony missions and establish first contact protocols. The council chamber erupted. What? That is impossible. Scouts and escorts? Junho waited for the noise to die down. According to intercepted communications, Earth maintains 3 separate fleets. The expeditionary force, which we encountered, the home defense fleet, which protects Earth and the Sol system, and the war fleet, which has never been deployed in actual combat. How large is this war fleet? Corvex asked, his voice hoarse. Unknown, Admiral. But based on the force ratios we observed, if the expeditionary force represents approximately 5% of Earth's total military capacity, then the war fleet could number over 300 vessels, possibly more. The silence that followed was absolute. Sharrick stood. It is clear that we cannot win a military conflict with humanity. We must negotiate immediately before this escalates further. For once, Drevkor did not object. He simply nodded, defeated. 3 weeks later, a human delegation arrived at the Velkari homeworld. Their ship, a diplomatic vessel named the Olive Branch, landed at the capital spaceport with full ceremonial honors. The Velkari had decided to treat this as a state visit rather than a surrender negotiation, though everyone knew the truth. Ambassador Tai Yang led the delegation. He was middle-aged by human standards, with gray streaking his hair and lines around his eyes. He walked with the calm confidence of someone who had seen many negotiations and knew how they worked. Captain Yunji accompanied him, along with Captain Minho, who had recovered from injuries sustained in an unrelated incident. Both wore their military uniforms, crisp and formal, bearing medals and insignia that the Velkari did not recognize but could guess at their meaning. The first meeting was held in the council chamber. Ambassador Taeyang bowed respectfully to the assembled councilors, a gesture of respect that surprised them. "Honored councilors," he said in perfect galactic common, his accent much lighter than the military captain's. "I come representing the United Nations of Earth. We seek peace and mutual understanding." Sharix rose to greet him. "Ambassador, we welcome you. We must apologize for the incidents that brought us to this point. The Velkari Empire acted rashly and without proper consideration." Taeyang smiled slightly. "Counselor, we understand. First contact situations are always tense. Both sides made assumptions. Both sides prepared for the worst. Fortunately, cooler heads have prevailed." "You say both sides made assumptions," Drevkor said carefully. "What assumptions did humanity make?" "We assumed you would react with hostility to an unknown vessel," Taeyang answered honestly. We assumed you would test our capabilities. We assumed we would need to demonstrate strength before you would negotiate seriously. It appears we were correct. The bluntness was refreshing. No diplomatic dancing. No pretending the battles had not happened. Ambassador, Sharik said, may I ask about your military capabilities? We have heard that the vessels we encountered were not your primary warships. Taeyang glanced at Captain Yunji, who nodded slightly. That is correct, Counselor. The ships you engaged were from our expeditionary force. Their purpose is exploration and first contact. They are designed to operate independently, far from support. And your war fleet? Korvex asked. Has never been deployed in actual combat, Taeyang said. Earth unified after a devastating global conflict. We swore never to let such destruction happen again, but we also learned that peace requires preparation. Our war fleet exists to ensure that we are never caught defenseless. We hope we never have to use it. Captain Minho spoke up, his accent still thick but his words clear. The war fleet is 20 times the size of the expeditionary force. Every ship is built for one purpose, to protect humanity and our allies. We do not seek conquest. We do not want your territory or your resources, but we will defend ourselves and those we protect. The message was clear. Humanity had shown restraint so far, but they had limits. Over the following weeks, intensive negotiations took place. Lieutenant Junho, now promoted to captain for his accurate intelligence work, was assigned as the Velkari liaison to the human delegation. He spent hours in discussion with the humans, learning about their culture and history. One evening, he sat with Captain Minho in a quiet meeting room sharing drinks. The human captain drank something called whiskey, which smelled like fire. Junho stuck with Velkari tea. Can I ask you something? Junho said carefully. Of course, Minho replied. When you fired on the Eternal Dominance, you chose to minimize casualties. When Captain Yunji fought the Third Armada, she targeted weapons instead of crew. Why? We attacked you. We gave you no mercy. Why did you show us any? Minho was quiet for a long moment. Because killing is easy. Restraint is hard. Anyone can destroy. It takes discipline to protect, even when protecting your enemy from themselves. He took a sip of his drink. Earth almost destroyed itself, Junho. We came very close to nuclear annihilation. Billions would have died. Our planet would have become uninhabitable. We survived because a few people chose restraint when they could have chosen destruction. You learned from your mistakes, Junho said. We tried to, Minho agreed. We are not perfect. We still fight. We still make terrible choices. But we remember what almost happened. We remember that violence should be a last resort, not a first response. Meanwhile, Engineer Yuna was examining captured human technology with a team of Velkari scientists. The more they studied it, the more impressed they became. Look at this power coupling, Yuna said, pointing to a component from a damaged human missile. It has 3 independent backup systems. If the primary fails, the secondary activates automatically. If that fails, the tertiary kicks in. This level of redundancy is incredible. It is also inefficient, one of her colleagues objected. They could reduce mass and cost by eliminating the backups. Unless the missile encounters unexpected interference, Yuna countered. Then the backups ensure it still reaches its target. The humans design for worst-case scenarios. They assume everything will go wrong and plan accordingly. She pulled up schematics of human warships. Every system is modular and field repairable. A ship can lose half its components and still function. This is not elegant engineering. This is survival engineering. It is practical, another scientist said. We design for optimal conditions. They design for disaster. And which approach kept their ships fighting when ours were disabled? Yuna asked pointedly. The treaty negotiations concluded after 3 months. The Accord of Stars was signed in a ceremony broadcast across both civilizations. The terms were straightforward. Mutual recognition of territories, establishment of trade routes, cultural exchange programs, military cooperation against external threats. The Velkari gained access to human engineering principles and Earth's extensive database of scientific research. Humanity gained star charts covering 200 systems and access to established trade networks throughout the sector. But more importantly, both sides gained something unexpected. Respect. Counselor Sharik stood with Ambassador Taeyang at the signing ceremony, watching as representatives from both civilizations placed their marks on the treaty document.